They say the morgue is the quietest place in any hospital, but no one ever tells you how that silence can weigh on you, how it presses down so heavily that you begin to feel invisible, even when you're right in the middle of everything. That was my reality, day in and day out, at Houseia Medical Center. The hospital was so immaculately clean, so relentlessly polished, it felt like even the air had been scrubbed free of any trace of human warmth or emotion. My name is Naomi Moore, and for years I was the invisible one, the tech who quietly did her job, kept her head down, and never gave anyone a reason to complain. Because when you're the only black woman on staff, you learn early that being good, being perfect even, is never quite enough. You learn to move carefully, to blend in, to stay unseen. But the truth about invisibility is that it lets you see things no one else notices. I saw a lot during those years, and I kept most of it to myself. Then the day they brought in Clarissa Whitmore changed everything. You don't forget a name like hers, the wife of a tech billionaire, the kind of woman whose flawless face graces, magazine covers always perfect, always just out of reach. Her sudden death sent shockwaves through the hospital, 2 black SUVs parked out front, a trail of suited men, and hushed whispers that fell silent the moment I stepped into the morgue. Her body didn't look right to me. The paperwork said heart attack, with the time of death officially recorded, and the entire process moved forward like it was just another routine day. But when I pulled back the sheet, I saw something no one else seemed to notice. Her face wasn't sunken as death usually is. Her skin still held a faint flush, and her lips looked freshly glossed, not dried or faded. That wasn't what death looked like. I pressed my gloved fingers against her arm. Her skin had a softness, a give to it, not the slack emptiness you expect after hours in the cold. Her muscles held a faint tension, subtle but unmistakable. I whispered to Carl, the assistant working with me, that something was off. He rolled his eyes and told me I was spooked, that she was dead, and I should just let it go. But I couldn't. My gut screamed louder than any rule or protocol ever had. It was too early for an autopsy, but the silence in the morgue felt heavy, loaded, like something was waiting to burst. I did something I never imagined I would do. I slapped her cheek, gentle but firm, just enough to provoke a response if there was any life left. For a long second, nothing happened. Then her eyelids fluttered. Her chest rose. She gasped, a ragged, desperate sound, but undeniably alive. In that moment, my world split in two. One where I was just another invisible tech, and another where I was about to be accused of assault, of madness, of stepping out of line. Carl rushed back in, saw what was happening, and the room quickly filled with doctors, security guards, and chaos. Clarissa Whitmore, the billionaire's wife, was alive, and I was the one who saved her, or so it seemed. But then her husband, Gregory Whitmore, stormed in, fury blazing in his eyes. He demanded to know who had touched his wife, screaming, "You put your hands on her? Are you out of your mind?" I tried to explain, to tell him what I saw, but no one wanted to listen. To him, I was a problem to be contained, not a hero to be praised. He didn't want to hear about instincts or the truth. He wanted someone to blame, and that someone was me. After the storm passed, I was left alone in the morgue, trembling, ice cold, already feeling the crushing weight of suspicion. No one thanked me. No one asked how I knew. It was as if I had broken some unspoken rule by refusing to stay silent. The message was clear. My job was to do as I was told, not to trust what I felt. Later, I was summoned to a conference room filled with hospital administrators, HR, and legal counsel. They demanded I explain myself to justify the slap that saved Clarissa's life. "What were you hoping to accomplish?" the legal officer asked without even looking up from his notes. "I thought she might be alive," I answered simply. The room fell silent. They told me the hospital needed time, and then placed me on administrative leave. They said it wasn't punishment, just procedure. But we both knew the real meaning: stay quiet. Control the story. That night, alone in my apartment, the world outside kept turning. News anchors reported Clarissa Whitmore's miraculous recovery. But there was no mention of how it happened, no mention of me, only a bland statement about an internal investigation. I was a ghost again, erased from the public narrative, except for a handful of quiet messages from nurses who saw what I saw, who believed, who understood what it meant to speak up in a world that prefers silence. But the truth, like water, always finds a way to seep through cracks. A detective named Roman Valoyan showed up at my door. He wasn't there to accuse me. He was there to listen. He handed me a thick folder filled with evidence, chemical traces in Clarissa's blood, medical logs, and a timeline that didn't add up. Someone wanted her to look dead, he said quietly. This wasn't an accident. And I might be the only one who saw it before it was too late. Meanwhile, at the Whitmore estate, Clarissa began to remember. The chill of the morgue, the sting of the slap, my voice calling to her. She asked for me and insisted on speaking with the detective. When she was finally allowed to talk, she revealed the truth. Her marriage was a cage, and her plan to disappear, carefully orchestrated with the help of a trusted man, was betrayed. Left for dead, with her husband guarding the door, more concerned with protecting his reputation than seeking justice or the truth. When the truth finally broke, it shattered everything. Headlines exploded across the media. Socialite awakens after apparent death. Black technician uncovers elite fraud. At first, the hospital scrambled to bury the story, with administrators spinning their carefully crafted narrative. But then, anonymous sources began leaking emails. Whistleblowers stepped forward, and my name started circulating. Not as a villain, but as a hero, at least to some. Gregory Whitmore tried desperately to control the narrative, holding a press conference where he blamed everyone but himself, painting his wife as a victim of manipulation and me as a dangerous threat. But the story had already slipped from his grasp. Clarissa herself released a powerful statement, naming me as the one who saved her life, telling the world that everything changed because I saw what others refused to see. The investigation snowballed. Reporters uncovered financial schemes, former employees shared stories of intimidation and control, and slowly the full picture emerged. Not just a case of medical error, but a system that valued power over people, silence over truth. I was reinstated with an apology and offered a new role as head patient advocate. But the real victory was quieter and deeper than any title. The hospital began to change. New protocols were created, mandatory trainings introduced, and a culture finally started to ask, what if we listen? Instead of who do we blame? Clarissa and I stayed in touch. Two women thrown together by fate, bound by one impossible moment. She launched a foundation for women escaping abusive relationships, speaking out under a new name. Not just a socialite in a glass case, but a force for good, unafraid to use her story to empower others. I stayed mostly out of the spotlight. My work was in the details, helping a patient get a translator, checking in on a nurse who felt unseen, standing in rooms that had once made me feel invisible, knowing now I wasn't alone. 6 months after. That morning in the morgue, everything felt different. Not perfect, but better. Letters from nurses, students, and strangers reminded me that even the smallest acts of courage can ripple out in ways you never expect. And every so often, I return to that cold, silent room, place my hand on the metal table, and remember the slap that started it all. Not violence, but hope. A refusal to settle for the easy answer. Life doesn't always hand you closure, and justice is rarely clean, but sometimes it's enough to know you spoke up, acted when it counted, and reached across the silence to believe in life over protocol, truth over fear. So what do you think? Was I right to do what I did? Was it luck, instinct, or something bigger? Let me know your thoughts on justice, courage, or the moments you felt unseen. Because sometimes, the only thing standing between silence and truth is one person willing to speak up. If this story moved you, don't forget to share it. Someone out there might need to hear it right now.